having less than $16 in my bank account on a Sunday and choosing to still call in on Monday to enter rodeos the next weekend because my hauling partner said, "Hey, I got you. We're going to go. Get in the truck. You're not going to stay in this slump forever." Navigating the loss of parents, horses, siblings, and miscarriages while hundreds of miles separate me and my cowgirl friends geographically, but our hearts have never been closer.
Hey, y'all, and welcome. You're listening to the Cowgirl Confessions Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Dawn Johnson, small town cowgirl with Southern roots, blazing a trail as a Midwest ranch wife, mama, and businesswoman. The mission of Cowgirl Confessions is to share the wonderfully wild and Western life stories of cowgirls from all walks of life. We'll talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to navigating careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle. Legendary cowgirl Dale Evans said it best: "Cowgirl is a pioneer spirit, a special brand of American courage. The cowgirl faces life head on, lives by her own lights, and makes no excuses. Cowgirls take stands. They speak up. They defend the things they hold dear. A cowgirl might be a rancher, a barrel racer, a bull rider, or an actress, but she's just as likely to be a checker at the local Winn-Dixie, a full-time mother, a banker, an attorney, or an astronaut. If you're into wet saddle blankets, talks with God, buckets full of laughter, and the life lessons learned in the process, kick off your boots and settle in. I pray these stories encourage, empower, and give you just the leg up you need. Here's to embracing the Cowgirl State of Mind, no matter how wild and Western life may get along the way."
Welcome to another episode of the Cowgirl Confessions Podcast. I thought, what better way to wrap up our year than finishing it off strong with a big dose of the Cowgirl State of Mind? Now, when I think about what the Cowgirl State of Mind means to me, my mind shifts to like projector mode, playing a collection of memories and words across a big screen. It's like my very own Western, if you will, with bits and pieces of what made me the cowgirl I am today. And, those lead roles in my Western are held by women that I greatly admire and just really sharing the life lessons that have been handed down over the years, whether it was fixing fence, sharing a Wendy's hamburger and fries, helping each other up the alleyway on a crazy barrel horse, laughing until my sides hurt, and praising Jesus simultaneously, that me and my friends live to tell about the crazy things we did in our early 20s, whether it's checking truck tires on the side of the road and still managing, to make it to the rodeo just in time, even though we'd had three blowouts. Like having less than $16 in my bank account on a Sunday and choosing to still call in on Monday to enter rodeos the next weekend because my hauling partner said, "Hey, I got you. We're going to go. Get in the truck. You're not going to stay in this slump forever." Navigating the loss of parents, horses, siblings, and miscarriages while hundreds of miles separate me and my cowgirl friends geographically, but our hearts have never been closer. It's knowing that when a gold buckle is handed out to someone that I've never met, being able to cheer her on because that cowgirl made numerous sacrifices to be there. It's having a front row seat to watching cowgirls who are heartbroken pick up the pieces. It's believing in something bigger than ourselves and thanking the good Lord for his protection and unanswered prayers. It's having a cold ranch water as we sit and listen to each other's goals and dreams via the phone because we just need to talk to another cowgirl who understands, the desires that we have on our heart. It's committing to the process and the state of mind of you're going to figure it out, whatever it takes. It's knowing that life is too short for undependable horses, trucks, and men. It's as my Aunt Nelda said when I was a little girl, never settle and start as you intend to finish. It's reminding myself every day When you have the cowgirl state of mind, you know that dreams don't work unless you do. And sometimes we need wet saddle blankets and time more than we need a smooth ride. My friend, this is what the cowgirl state of mind means to me. We each have our very own version. And while I know that this has been a blessing of a year, and what we are moving into is also a blessing in 2024. Regardless of how things have felt, each and every day that we're on this earth, we get to take another breath. We get to spend it with the people we love. Even when it's hard, it's a gift, it's a blessing. And I'm here to remind you through this podcast that you are writing a story that's worth saddling up for, sister. So I want you to keep the cowgirl state of mind front and center. I encourage you to keep pursuing your dreams with that all go and no woe mentality. Time is going to pass regardless of what you decide to do. So you might as well go all in and be working towards that dream that you have. Thank you so much for being here. This episode is going to share bits and pieces of our former guest and what the cowgirl state of mind means to them. I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out, leave us a review, let us know if you love this podcast, share it with a friend, and let's hear what the cowgirl state of mind means to you. Take a moment, type it in the notes on your phone, send it to me in a DM or email me. I'd love to know. And this was such a great opportunity for me to sit down and reflect what it means to me as well, and something that I'm just really, really thankful this podcast is all about. It's the cowgirl state of mind and sharing that with women across the globe. So I pray this blesses you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and a very happy new year.
The way I like to kind of end each podcast episode, I love to ask each guest what the phrase cowgirl state of mind means to them, because that's what this podcast is dedicated to, is just encouraging women from all walks of life to embrace that cowgirl state of mind. So I'm curious, what does that mean to you?
To me, that cowgirl state of mind is about courage and trust and integrity. I think, especially the courage to take the risk, the trust that you'll be there for yourself and people will be there with you, and then the integrity to always be asking yourself, am I going the right direction? Am I doing the right thing? Am I living by my values? That's what it is for me.
Having a cowgirl state of mind just simply means being a find a way, make a way type of gal. There, as they say, there's always more than one way to skin a rabbit.
Yep.
So just not giving up if the first thing you try doesn't work. There's so many people that they have so much potential, but they try something and it doesn't work and they're like, okay, I'm done. They just give up. But just, a cowgirl state of mind, you do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to do, no matter what that is. And one of my favorite quotes, this actually came from Pam Minnick. If you don't know who Pam Minnick is, she's a former Miss Rodeo America broadcaster, big time lady in the broadcast Western world. One of my favorite quotes is by her. She said, "People think that cowgirls are tobacco spitting, truck driving mamas. Yeah, we've got a truck and it's probably bigger than yours, but we're still ladies for the most part." I have always loved that quote because
Yes,
it's true. That also sums up the cowgirl state of mind. Like, cowgirls aren't afraid to get a little dirt under their fingernails. They can drive a truck and a trailer and ride horses or work cattle or fix something with duct tape or baling wire. But then they can also get dressed up and go be this classy lady that can speak intelligently and have her stuff together. And this is just a normal Tuesday for her. She doesn't think it's odd at all.
oh my gosh, I think that may be my favorite description I've ever heard. And I'm making it a goal. I'm just putting it out there and saying it right now. Like, what an honor it would be to have Pam Minnick on this podcast to share that quote herself.
Make it happen.
Yes. Friends, if you rub elbows with Pam Minnick, hit me up because we would love to have her on the podcast. Callie, this has just been just such a gift to me. Thank you for sharing what your journey has looked like as just a solopreneur, being gritty, the the way you have evolved as a cowgirl, as a business owner, and I just can't wait to see what the next 5 years look like. So
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad that we finally got to connect and do this.
A cowgirl state of mind to me would be you don't take no for an answer. I really don't take no for an answer. I don't like that word. Having grit. Things don't come easy, but they're going to be worth it. If you think you're working hard, work harder if it's not working. Kindness. And then I also think, just for me, a true cowgirl, she's going to love Jesus in her heart, and she's going to have some old school way of thinking that is not popular these days. But for me, that is the truth behind a cowgirl state of mind. Like, we're going to be Republican. We're going to love America. We're going to love Jesus. We're going to have our priorities straight with our family. We're going to kick it old school and have some Sunday dinners. And I just really think it's important to show that historic side of life for our next generation. And just not let the waters get so muddy with what's going on today.
I think the cowgirl state of mind is never giving up. It's kind of always pushing through the hard times, enjoying the good and the sweet times, but just pushing through and taking everything that happens in life as a time for learning and growing. And sometimes we don't see what is happening in the moment, but being able to look back and say, oh, that's why that happened. That's why God put that in my path, that roadblock, or that's why he shut me down. That's why he told me to be still. I mean, I've literally have heard the audible voice of God one time. And not a lot of people can say that, but he, in a strong daddy voice, said, be still. And that was after we shut Sweet Peas down. And, I said, having a creative mind can be a curse. It's like, I'm always trying, I'm not always trying. It just, things come to my mind, and it's like, I have to tackle that. I have to do that. I have to do that. And it's usually in the middle of the night. It wakes me up in the middle of the night, like, oh, this great idea. This is what I could do. This is how we can plan it. This is how we can execute the plan, And I was working on that after we shut Sweet Peas down. I said he closed that chapter. Britt and I were both in agreements of closing that chapter, but then my brain was just on overdrive, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I was forgetting that he was closing that chapter because he wanted me home. He wanted me to be still. And I was lying in bed one night, and I was reading, and Brendan was just, of course, asleep beside me. And God just said, be still. And I'm going to tell you, I sat up like a 5-year-old child that had just been scolded by his mama. And it was, okay, yes, sir, I will be still. And so, and that's hard. That's hard. That's hard for somebody who enjoys working and doing and going, and just be still. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I feel like somebody probably needs to hear that today.
When it comes to navigating careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle, it can feel lonely sometimes, like you're down in the trenches trying to do all the things. But I want to share with you that it doesn't have to feel that way. I joined the Cowgirls Over Coffee membership in May of 2020, and y'all, it has been such a gift. It has allowed me to connect with women with that Western and rural background that simply get it. They understand what I'm working with. We get to share strategies, encouragement, and hold each other accountable as we're pursuing goals in all of these different areas of life. To learn more, visit cowgirlsovercoffee.com or check out episode 45 of the Cowgirl Confessions Podcast that features the founder of Cowgirls Over Coffee, Thea Larson. I hope to see you there.
I think back, I had these beautiful, pair of black leather cowgirl boots. I bought them for a wedding, and it was a dear friend of mine. We wore these beautiful, like, little teal lace dresses, and she wanted us to wear black boots with them. And so I remember when I picked them out, like, I just really, really loved these boots, and I felt good in them. And so I remember, when I slipped into them, I felt like, I can take on the world. Like, I feel good. And I really think that is what the cowgirl state of mind is. It's slipping on your boots, no matter what you're getting ready to trudge through, but slipping them on and just going through it with, like, this grace-filled confidence and just taking it on. But a lot of grace and a lot of confidence is what I think of.
Cowgirl state of mind is putting your family and your faith first. It's living your life with integrity and honesty. I think that's so important, and something that cowgirl state of mind trumps over, like we talked about, the rest of the world that doesn't have that. But I think the most important thing is being a voice, not an echo. And if that voice is, sharing your faith, sharing your beliefs, sharing, when you don't think things are right, that's when change is made. And I think being the voice and not an echo is probably the thing I'm going to hold on most to the cowgirl state of mind, because we know some outspoken cowgirls, and they usually are the ones that shape the world. I mean, look at, like you said, breakaway roping. That didn't happen by chance. That took some voices. And I think, to me, that's what makes us different. And I'll use my voice to share my faith in God, and try to always encourage others, and just really try to be a good human. I know it's in our nature to sometimes not be, but just trying so hard to make the right steps when I can. And so that, to me, is cowgirl state of mind.
Cowgirl state of mind is anyone in agriculture or that has horses. You understand the work ethic that goes into it. So cowgirl state of mind to me is just being able to put your head down and happily go to work and give that glory to God, and stay humble.
I really do believe that it's looking at life like it's possible. Like, whatever challenge you face, you can overcome it and you can navigate it. And especially as a believer in Jesus, like, I know that whatever problem I face, I can do it, especially because I have him and I have Holy Spirit inside of me. And so I really believe that a cowgirl state of mind is one that is like, you know what, this is hard. This is not going to be fun, but we're going to get through it and we're going to make it through it. And I really believe that that's where the transformation comes. And sometimes climbing the mountain is the more rewarding part to then even just getting to the top of the mountain. And so I really believe like just that grit that comes with, like, I'm going to face this challenge and I'm going to overcome it and it's going to be all right. And I'm going to help others along the way.
Well, I'll tell you, I had to think about 2 or 3 people that are really my stronger cowgirl friends. And what I like is a person that has a real confident sense of self. They're not afraid to stray from the crowd, and just real strong convictions. And I really admire people like that. That's the people that I hold at the top of the ladder. Just a real strong conviction of right and wrong, and true and false. And I admire those people. I really do. It takes a lot of strength sometimes to go your own way, but you should always do that. You should never go with the crowd if you feel like you need to do something different. So those are the people that I look at. They're really something. I'm glad they're my friends.
You know, we have to have courage. We're living in a time in our country. We're living in an interesting time. And there are times that I've asked the Lord, man, Jesus, come quickly, because it's hard. Life is so hard right now, and everything's happening so quick, and there's so much stimulation everywhere, and people are coming against you. And, it'd have been real easy, Dakota. And I tell you, after some of the things that have come against me this week, it's like, Lord, why am I doing this? You know, why? Do people even care? You know, I tell you, you're meeting your husband this week and Tim, it encouraged me, because it's guys like that I'm fighting for. And sometimes the battle becomes so hard, so hot, that I'm like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, I mean, why do I need to put myself on the line for people who they're living their lives? They're completely oblivious to everything going on. But we do it because God's called us to do it. And that does take courage. You know, one of my favorite scriptures talks about, and this is the Tatum version, not the King James, talks about, you know, be still. God's fighting your battles for you. You know, He is fighting these battles. And I've really struggled to remind myself, you know, that sometimes that I don't have to do this lift on my own, that the Lord's got me. And if I could leave the gals on this, that small voice in your spirit, that little tickle that you have in your gut that says, do this, don't do that, stand up. Now more than ever, we have got to sink a deep seat, or sit a deep seat and sink a spur, because it is wild. And the cavalry's not coming, Dakota. We're the cavalry, right? Nobody's coming to save us. And so one of my friends in the cattle business in Narcast, he said this to me years ago, because sometimes all these issues, and I apologize, I hope I just didn't talk too much about all this stuff that's going on.
No, you're good.
But he said this to me several years ago when I was just lamenting, boy, howdy, this is so dang hard. And he goes, you know, Tatum, he said, he talked about history, and he talked about those early revolutionists who literally pledged their life and their families and their fortunes, knowing that if we lost that Revolutionary War, they were dead. And honestly, the majority of them did end up losing their lives, and they lost their fortunes, and they lost their families. And talk about courage. And then he said to me, Tatum, he goes, I might be a casualty in this war that we're fighting, but I won't be a victim. And that's powerful. And that's where we're at, is these gals that are sitting on their ranches, that are in this way of life, they're coming for us every day. And you cannot leave it up anymore. I urge you, do not leave it to somebody else to make the heavy lift. It's not up to somebody else to fight that fight for you. It's up to every single one of us. If we want to keep our Western way of life, if we want to keep the history and the legacy of our ranches, it's time we step up. We have to.
Thank you for spending your time with me on the Cowgirl Confessions podcast. I'm so glad y'all stopped by. If you could take a moment to share this episode and tag us on social media, I'd be happier than a cowgirl in a sea of buy one, get one vintage turquoise. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. New episodes will be released bi-monthly. Please leave us a review if you feel so led by going to iTunes. Your feedback will really help us breed the idea of grabbing life by the horns with the Cowgirl State of Mind into women across the globe. Some that may have never even had the privilege to throw their leg over a horse, but could most certainly use the Cowgirl State of Mind while navigating life. Thanks again, y'all. Until next time, keep pursuing your dreams with that all-go and no-woe mentality. Remember, you're writing a story that's worth saddling up for, sister.